Hello, what's up guys, welcome back to my channel, and for today's video we'll be looking at Skylords Reborn, and I will be updating or remaking my Nature tier list for PvE cards. So Nature is one of the first, or I think probably the first tier list that I've created. It has been 4 years since I've updated it, and through the different updates that Skylords Reborn has undergone, like the natural selection season especially, and a couple of major patches the past few years, there are cards that are new and also that have their abilities changed. So I think this is the most appropriate time for me to update the tier list, and I'm going to let you know what I think about the card. I will rank the cards based on its usefulness, and also obviously if a card is very versatile, like example Surge of Light, where it can be played with only one nature orb and is very helpful for many other faction decks or different colored decks, it will also be ranked higher because it is just a necessity, or that you really need this card to be played. So that's how I would really rate the card, on how useful it is overall on nature decks and also like other decks. So obviously the cards that rank lower are cards that I would probably never use in campaign PvE. Then for like a C rank is probably like a very situational card that I have to use for specific campaign maps. So for S and A tier is probably cards that I would definitely have in my deck if I play a nature deck. Alright, so let us begin, and our first card would be the 3 Spirits, Purple Affinity one and the Green Affinity one. And for 3 Spirits, I will place them as a C tier for both of them. They are not very strong cards alone, so usually people don't play 3 Spirits by themselves, but what I usually use 3 Spirits for is whenever there are challenges and my deck is restricted or of some sorts, I use 3 Spirits to buff up my root network, and they are cheaper to use as compared to like Living Towers, which cost 70 power. So a couple of these, like 3 Spirits, about 6 of them, and it can really buff your Razor Leaf really strong. So that is only what mostly I would do for 3 Spirits. And next up we got Mana Wing, and for Mana Wing I will honestly put it as a A tier. I wouldn't really say that it's an S tier, because for Mana Wing, even though it's a very good tier 1 flying unit, or probably the only flying unit that is at tier 1, the issue is that Mana Wings are easy to be killed. So if there's any like anti-air units or anti-air buildings, it can really take down Mana Wing quite fast. So it cannot really be used in every single map, because some of the maps there are just units that can counter Mana Wing quite easily. So yeah, Mana Wing is at A tier. Next we got the Dryad, and for Dryad, the blue one is always the higher one, because the blue one directly impacts your units and they receive less damage from enemy attacks. So Dryad is always the one that I'll put it as a B tier. Yeah, because for Nature Affinity Dryad, it just helps your units have immunity against like weakening abilities. So not very useful. I'll put it as a D tier. It's not really used in any decks. Next up we got World Beast, and honestly World Beast is a really strong card, and I'll put it as a S tier. And why is an S tier is because when you have nature and you play as a first orb, it's a very good combination with Wind Weavers, because they help you tank damage, and World Beasts by themselves regenerate health. So honestly you don't need much like healing spells, or you don't even need Shaman to heal your army. And if the enemy units attacking your World Beast deals fewer damage than the speed of regeneration for World Beast, then honestly they are an immortal tank for your tier 1 army. Therefore S tier for World Beast. Next we got Spearman, and Spearman, I never use Spearman for PvE because there's World Beast, and World Beast just gets the job done. They cost more power to summon than World Beast, and there's just not much incentive for you to play Spearman. So honestly, because of World Beast in itself, Spearman has been downgraded to a D tier. And next we got Wind Weavers, and Wind Weavers S tier is a must card that you should have for Nature tier 1. So that is for Wind Weavers. For Shaman, I would say that it's a B tier. It is a very good to have card, especially if you're a beginner, to help heal your army. So I wouldn't say it's a necessity, but at the same time it's quite a useful card for beginners. So obviously because it's useful for certain players, I would definitely say that it is at least a B tier, and minimally I think it will stay as a B tier for Shaman. Next we got Swiftclaw. I would say Swiftclaw is very situational. It does very well with its M counter and its additional 50% attack bonus when you activate its ability. So honestly I use Swiftclaw at certain campaign maps, but it is really situational. Therefore it's a C tier for me. Next will be Amazon, and the buff that Amazon got is that it is now able to take control of enemy units that are not only a beast enemy unit. So now, as long as they fulfill the orb requirement and power cost, you are able to take control of the enemy unit. So because of that, I would say that Amazon have a little bit of a slight usefulness, slight buff, but overall it is still very situational, because after all, the ability, when you use it for Amazon, it costs 65 power, and Amazon itself is not a very cheap card. It costs 75 power to summon Amazon, so it will still remain a situational card for Amazon, so therefore C tier for both affinities. Next will be a Root Nexus, and honestly for Root Nexus I will put both of them at A tier, because if you play Root Network, Root Nexus is one of the cards that you must have in your deck. If I were to choose which affinity is better, I would say that the regeneration one would have a higher precedence to be placed in your deck. So therefore I would put the blue affinity Root Nexus down to a B tier, but the green affinity would remain as an A tier. I would say that for every deck that I play that has Root Network, I will have a Root Nexus, the green affinity, inside my deck itself. And next we got Tunnel, and for Tunnel it's a very situational card. I wouldn't say that it is useless, but in some cases or campaign maps it is very useful to have this card, because if you want to have speed run, Tunnel actually can help you teleport your units very quickly with Burrow Ritual, so it can be very useful. So I would say that it is still situational, because even for speedrun, power is still a sensitive thing, so you want to have as much power as you can to allocate to summoning units or even using spells to clear the map quickly. Primal Defender, I would say that it is a very essential tier 1 card, especially if you require some early defenses in your map. So Primal Defender no doubt is an A tier. Next, we got Fountain of Rebirth, and I would say that it is a very situational card for Fountain of Rebirth. Fountain of Rebirth is very helpful to regenerate your mana wing, so therefore it's very situational, I would say, and only usually pairs well with mana wing, therefore it's a C tier. Next, we got Stranglehold, and I favor the purple affinity Stranglehold more. I would say that it is quite useful. I would say it's a B tier. And the green affinity one, I would say that it is a D tier. The reason why is that usually Stranglehold, what I use it is to help kill units and delay attack at the same time. So because the purple affinity Stranglehold deals damage and roots enemy units, therefore it is more helpful. And for the green affinity, what it does is only to root units. So we have a card that's called Ensnaring Roots, and if you need a building to continuously root enemy units, I don't think there's a point for it. If you got a strong enough army, you can just cast Ensnaring Roots and use the army to kill off enemy units. But Purple Affinity, because it deals damage, it helps you as a tower itself. Therefore, Purple Affinity B tier, and the Green Affinity Stranglehold is at the D tier. And next we got Mouth of the Keeper, and I would say that it is useful in some cases, but not entirely a situational card. Mouth of the Keeper is very useful in helping you sort of like block enemy waves for certain maps. I think Mouth of the Keeper can be useful in that sense. Therefore, I would think that it would be at least a B tier, which is why it's a B tier. Next, we got Barrel Ritual. I'll put both as a C tier because they pair well with Tunnel or like Sylvan Gate, where they'll teleport your units quickly and you can sort of like run your map quicker. Barrel Ritual is just very useful, especially to teleport your flying units, because flying units doesn't work for tunnels. But it's still of course a situational card and requires you to have at least a tunnel, Sylvan Gate, or sort of like a tunnel exit or like Deep Coil Worm too. And Snaring Roots, I would say that it is a S tier card, because what pairs really well with Ensnaring Roots is that when the enemies are rooted and when the Ensnaring Roots are gone, you can cast Creeping Paralysis or you can cast Curse of Oink or other CC spells, and they will not be affected by any like major debuffs where the duration of your CC spells is being reduced. Therefore, I think Ensnaring Roots very useful, even though it can only attack or it can only affect ground units. So S tier for Ensnaring Roots. Mumbo Jumbo Purple Affinity is a D tier. There's no use whatsoever. Red Affinity is, I want to put it as the D tier, but it has this usefulness that it can help you deal more damage to enemy units or building. Therefore, highly situational, but because it is already a situational card and not a useless card, I'll put it as a C tier. Next, for Hurricane, I would say that Hurricane is a B tier. I don't have it in all my decks. It's very useful for you to clear enemy camps where there's a lot of small units and you can knock back the small units with Hurricane. But other than that, honestly, usefulness wise is limited. I wouldn't consider it a situational card because after all, as long as there are small units available in the map itself and you want to clear, you're able to use Hurricane to help you clear the enemy camp much more quicker. So yes, B tier for Hurricane. Next you got the Envenom, and for Envenom, I think it is situational. I don't have deck slots to put it in my PvE deck. Okay, how about I just put it as a D tier, because really we don't really use this card in PvE. It only affects a single unit, and honestly, PvE we got a huge army. Unless you sort of like want to attack like Twilight Abomination or like a tier 4, tier 3 unit right at the beginning of the game, then this is helpful. But campaign PvE maps in general, when you attack enemies, it is in a large group and it's not a singular boss, so they are not very useful for Envenom, so D tier. Next got Surge of Light, S tier. Every single deck that has a nature op, you should have it. Heals units, very versatile. You can cast it instantly to heal it again. Very good card, S tier. Energy Parasite, D tier. There's no use whatsoever for you to use this in PvE. Next got Ghost Spears, and I would say that Ghost Spears, similar argument to Spearman. I never have these Ghost Spears in my deck because there are a lot better options for you to choose for tier 2 cards. So D tier for Ghost Spears. Well, Mauler is also the same. There's a lot better tier 2 cards. It is not a very useful card to play in PvE. Next got Burrow, and Burrow I would say is a B tier. It can be very useful with its acid speed if you want to clear walls, and also its siege ability and swift. So what I usually use is for Burrow is because it has swift and siege. I want to take down spawning buildings quicker. Therefore, it is quite a useful card in my opinion. Therefore, it's a B tier. And for Spirit Hunter, I would just give both a D tier. There is really no use to play this in PvE, or rather very limited use. I have not used Spirit Hunter for a very long time, even with card deck restrictions. Yeah, there's so much better cards to play, like Spike Root. We got Deep One as well, which is coming up soon. Next got Parasite Swarm. It is a situational card. Yeah, I'm not saying that it is a bad card, but Parasite Swarm is really useful in specific maps where you require control of your enemy units. But if there's no map that allows you to do that, then Parasite Swarm is essentially quite useless in the map itself. The good thing about Parasite Swarm, of course, when you control enemy units, the enemy units is not power bound. So all your power from your Parasite Swarm and the ability to mind control units is refunded back to your Void power pool, which is very useful. But in essence, if there's no units for you to take control of, Parasite Swarm is useless in that particular campaign map. Therefore, I would say the highest you can rate it is a C tier, just because it's very situational. Alright, so next up we got Spike Root, and Spike Root is a very good tier 2 card and one of the best card that you can have that attack ground units for nature. And if you are playing a root network and tier 2 is really a tough battle to be won, actually Spike Root can bring you all the way to tier 3. And yeah, for Spike Root, I would say that it's an A tier. It's a very good card, but just because of limitations, like it can't attack air units, it can't be an S tier, and usually that is kind of annoying to me, where some of the maps where I play Spike Root, I have to couple with like Wind Reverse to take down some of the air units. Deep One, similar argument, is a very good ground unit card, very tanky as well. Based on its attack power and tankiness for a tier 2 nature, I think that both of them kind of deserves an A tier, and how useful I find them in many situations at the tier 2 stage. Next I got Healing Well, and I would say Healing Well as a C tier, very situational. Usually this card is placed when you have like a defensive formation like Razor Leaf and you want your units to be healed consistently, and Healing Well is one of the cards that does quite a good job. But essentially, if you're not playing a defensive position, there's not really a need for you to have Healing Well, and Healing Well only regenerates your units and not your building's health. Next got Living Tower, and for Living Tower it is I really love Living Tower, so I will give it S tier. They are really strong towers. The only thing is that if they are just 1 or 2 towers, they can be a little bit weak. But once you build a lot of these Living Towers in a group, they become very strong and they really outpower some tier 3 towers. For nature, we don't really have a good tier 3 tower, I would say. Therefore, I think living tower is an S tier, can hold off very well and even, like I would say, better than tier 3. Next we got the Woodland Watch, and honestly I find this card to be slightly underwhelming because damage wise not say very impressive, and this tower itself requires you to have some form of like another card in your deck, like an elf, so that it buffs the tower depending on what elf you put inside this tower itself. So you would have to have at least a Wind Weaver or another elf in your deck to buff this tower up. And also this tower is not cheap to summon, it's slightly more expensive than Living Tower. So honestly, when I play this card, it doesn't defend as well as Living Tower, and if I compare Living Towers with this Woodland Watch, I would say that it is not a very good card. I think I might even put it as a D tier, but it's a good card if you don't play Root Network for nature. So yeah, so if you don't have any Root Network units and you want to play Woodland Watch, is good. And the other good thing that I would say for Woodland Watch is, of course, it just requires 1 nature orb and not like a pure 2 nature orb for Living Tower. So therefore it still remains as a C tier for a situational card to be used. Next we got Breeding Grounds, and because Breeding Grounds have increased its initial power cost from 70 to 90 power now, slightly less efficient in the use of power, but I would say that still very good. I might even put it as an A tier still, because Breeding Grounds affect not only just you, but it can help teammates to reduce power cost when they summon units. So I would still say Breeding Tower is A tier, but before that I think it was the S tier for Breeding Grounds. Next we got Sunken Temple, and the difference between the old Sunken Temple and now is that now we have a passive stream of pests that is summoned through the Sunken Temple. But I would still say that it's a C tier. Before that I think it's a D tier. It was really like completely irrelevant in PvE, but now I think it helps you in some challenges where you are not allowed to have units, but Sunken Temple is a building and helps you summon units, so it's a situational card that can help you get units artificially. And next got Creeping Paralysis. I would say that's a quite useful card, but not super high on the level because it's after all still 2 nature orbs, not as versatile, and also you have to wait about 5 seconds in order for the paralysis to happen. Next got Curse of Oink, and I would say Curse of Oink is still an S tier, very fast CC spell, instant, and can help you get out of situations very quickly. So Curse of Oink, an S tier for me. Next got Parasite, and Parasite I would say that's a situational card, and the good thing about this is that once you cast in an enemy army itself, this Parasite also spread around the army and kill off enemy units, so that is still a little bit more useful. Next we just got the Ray of Light, and Ray of Light I'm very torn between if it should be a B or a C tier, but I think Ray of Light can be like a low B tier. It is useful, but people say that the regeneration is low, but Ray of Light is meant to be cast when my units are about full health. This is to make sure that the regeneration still occurs when enemy units are being attacked and dealt damage. So if you use it correctly, I would say that it's really quite useful. If you use it in the beginning of the battle, your friendly units will have more of a chance to regenerate their own health. Yeah, so I would say that Ray of Light is a B tier. And next we got Drones. I want to say that Drones is C tier. It will be more situational because the thing about Drones is that it requires 1 nature orb, and if you were to play a mixed colored deck, there are really better alternatives to drone like Silverwind Lancers, which cost 80 power and considerably tanky, Bandit Lancer, which cost even cheaper, and they're just better options for you to have that is like a swift tanky unit rather than just using drones. So I would say that drones situational card is a C tier. Alright, next up we got the Time Shifter Spirit. And for Time Shifter Spirit, honestly it is a situational card. Honestly it is too niche. For nature, pure nature itself, we got a lot of healing spells, Equilibrium, we got Ray of Light, Surge of Light, we got buildings that help you heal like Healing Well and Healing Garden. For Time Shifter Spirit, the something like Mount of the Keeper, the radius is slightly smaller than Mount of the Keeper, so not as useful as Mount of the Keeper. Therefore I think Time Shifter Spirit is at the C tier. Next got Storm Drake, is a A tier. I find Storm Drake to be very useful because it is a flying unit and deals damage to XL units, which means that even though it's a tier 3 unit, there's a lot of like sort of like tier 4 or strong enemy units that are XL size, and Storm Drakes deal a lot of damage to them. Therefore Storm Drake's A tier for me. Next got Stormbug, and Stormbug I'll put it, honestly I'll put Stormbug as A tier as well. I was contemplating if I should put it as a B tier, but if you're playing a root network deck, Stormbugs is really strong. The difference between Razor Leaf and Thornbark is that Thornbarks you summon a lot in the group and they move together as a group and they deal a lot of damage to enemy units. Thornbark could be an A tier. Fathom Lord, I would say that is a C tier, very situational. There's not really much of a need when you got like Thornbark and Swamp Drakes. They clear the map much more quicker than Fathom Lords. Next you got the Abyssal Warder, and okay, Abyssal Warder is more of a combo card, so in combining it with Promise of Life, where it will resurrect your Abyssal Warder, and your Abyssal Warder itself, you are able to get back its power in the Void Power pool. So a couple of combinations where you can play with Abyssal Warder, so I think it's useful and can be a very strong card. So only if you play well it will be useful, if not it will just be in a C tier. So for now I think Abyssal Warders kind of like deserve maybe just a low B tier rank. This got Deep Coil Worm, and I'll also put Deep Coil Worm as a B tier because what I find Deep Coil Worm to be lacking is its health, and it dies off very fast. So over time I've removed Deep Coil Worm from my deck because it's just not efficient in that, just like running through the map. So I think Deep Coil Worm for now is a B tier for me. And Razor Leaf, it is also a B tier for me, very essential for defensive maps, so therefore it is considered useful and B tier. Next you got Sylvan Gate. The Purple Affinity one will be a D tier, and the Red Affinity would be a B tier. What is good about Sylvan Gate is that it reconnects your rune network from really far away, so that is a very large range, and it also buffs up your root network units when it is within like a 20-meter radius, and it also helps Razor Leaf to get far away like root network if you want to use Razor Leaf as an attacking force. So Sylvan Gate is a B tier. Healing Gardens, I would say C tier, situational, similar argument with Healing Well. Shrine of Memory, I would say it is a B tier. It is useful. It's useful in the sense that if you want to get back Void Power quickly, you're running through the map and you will just want to cure off your own units to get back Void Power and refund it back to your power pool to summon more tier 3 units, then it is useful in that sense. This got Mind Weaver, and I really don't think this is useful because honestly with a bunch of living towers it can kill off enemy units very quickly, so there's no need for you to have a new tower Mind Weaver to use its ability to control enemy units just for a short time. It's not even permanent. To me it's a D tier. Next, you got Wheel of Gifts, and Wheel of Gifts is a B tier. It is useful, but it is not necessary. But you can have Wheel of Gifts in any of your games, so honestly it is a useful card, but it's just a matter of if you want to use it or not. So B tier for Wheel of Gifts. Next you got Swarm, and Swarm is a B tier. Honestly a very useful card to get like a last minute like pinch to take down spawning camps, because Burrowers, as I've mentioned, deals really good siege damage, and honestly it is a pretty good discount. It costs only about like 90 power to summon a couple of like Burrowers, so I think it is very useful. So B tier for Swarm. Next we got Revenge, and Revenge it is a B tier too. Helps to reduce damage taken from your units and also sort of reflect damage to enemy units. Right, so next is Forest Vim, and in all honesty I think that Forest Vim deserves a D tier. It sounds very good for you to really regenerate a lot of your health for the entire root network, but to reach to that stage means that your root network or your defense probably isn't good and have failed. So I honestly think that Forest Vim should be a card that you shouldn't even use, or you shouldn't even reach the point to use Forest Vim. I think it is a D tier as a whole. And next we got Equilibrium, and for Equilibrium I'll give it a B tier for both. Okay, Blue Affinity Equilibrium will be a C tier because it is more situational, where you require a lot of enemy unit health in order to heal more of your friend unit health. But for the Green Affinity it will still be a useful card because obviously when you can control the size of your army and the health of your army, and this is more within your control. So if you've got Green Affinity Equilibrium, more likely you are leaning towards a large army and you have a lot of health to heal your army to get more like health bonuses or regeneration bonuses. And next you got Thunderstorm, and Thunderstorm is a very strong card, S tier. It is few cards of the nature deck that damages enemy units, and the damage it deals to enemy units is quite decent as well. So I think that Thunderstorm is a very good like clutch card. Next you got Promise of Life, and okay, just because I put Abyssal Warder at the B tier, I think I'm forced to put Promise of Life just because both of these cards is like a combo and synergizes well with each other. I really want to put them as C tier, but I will stick to my word because Abyssal Warder is a B tier. Promise of Life will be a B tier as well. Next, Enlightenment. I would say that Enlightenment is also a B tier. The reason why is that Enlightenment as a card is usually not needed. It's similar to Wheel of Gifts. It's useful, but if you want to use it, it's really up to you. So I would say that Enlightenment is a B tier overall. Groove Spirit, I would say that it's a D tier. Have absolutely no space for this, and it's a tier 4 card. Next, you got Green Vine, and Green Vine I would say that it's a C tier because it moves slowly, even though it's a tanky card. But I would choose to have Forest Elder or even like the Giant Nymph as a card. So Green Vine is a situational card. Then you got Spore Launcher, and Spore Launcher is a D tier just because it is very underwhelming compared to Razor Leaf, and Razor Leaf by itself will deal more damage than Spore Launcher, and Spore Launcher only deals damage to ground units, so that is really sad, I would say. Next you got the Primeval Watcher, and Primeval Watcher I would say that it's a A tier. It deals really a ton of damage. I've played this card really quite a number of times and still quite surprised on how the damage is dealt to enemy units, so it's really impressive damage wise. Colossus, I'll put it as a C tier because nature restrictive. You require 3 nature ops. The only good thing is that it's fast, you can run around very quickly, and it's XL counter, which deals I guess decent damage to XL bosses. So C tier for Colossus. Next we got Giant Nymph, and it's a S tier. Is a card that you definitely will play if you play in nature, and even if you have a mixed faction deck, Giant Nymph is one of the strong flying unit cards that you go for. So S tier. This got Forest Elder, and I would say the Green Affinity Forest Elder is a S tier, and Blue Affinity one I'll just put it as a B tier. Both Forest Elder is basically a moving or walking breeding grounds, and they reduce cost more than breeding grounds. Therefore, I think even the Blue Affinity Forest Elder should be at least a B tier because it is useful in itself. Next, you got Howling Shrine, and for Howling Shrine, I would say that it is a C tier. It is really good to buff up Root Network, but it is not necessary because, as mentioned, I think Razor Leaf does the job well. Next, you got Livestream, and I'll pump Livestream up to B. And I've shown you a couple of my game runs where I use Livestream, and it reduces a lot of damage taken by friendly units, and I think that it really works well when you try to push forward and you really want to save your spells, your healing spells charges. And Livestream reduces really tremendous amount of damage from your friendly unit, so honestly find it very helpful in helping my gameplay. So I think Livestream deserves at least a B tier for me. Next we got Sanctuary, and for Sanctuary, C tier is situational because not all the time we'll need this like counter magic feel, Mouth of the Keeper feel. Anyway, when you have tier 4, usually you will have a big and strong army to just get rid of units or enemy building, so that's not really compulsory in my opinion, so it's a C tier. Next got Green Peace, and for Green Peace it is also a situational card. You only use this card when you don't have a huge like friendly force and you just want to target boarding camp, then I will use Green Peace to slowly like get rid of the enemy camp itself. Next, Regrowth S tier. This is really a card that you play if you got a nature op. Next, Noxious Cloud is a C tier, very situational spell to use. And we got Mind Control, and I would say that it is a B tier. Very good in really swapping out or like getting enemy units on your side, and it is a permanent swap. So if you use it on really strong units, it can really cut down your enemy strength, also increase your own friendly strength. Therefore, I think Mind Control itself deserves a B tier. And yep, this is it for my tier list, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and do write down in your comment section what you think about my Skylords Reborn Nature card PvE tier list. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys again real soon for my next video.